supporting young children to develop their understanding of and engagement with aggression on screen technologies. In this presentation, we will be covering a number of different aspects relating to technological childhoods, focusing mainly on if technology affects a child's behaviour and aggression. We will be looking at past and present screen technologies and comparing their differences and how each technology affects a child's behaviour. We will also mention the adult's role in supporting the child in regards to getting the best out of technology in the education environment. Screen technologies refers to the viewing of television, films, video games, music videos and computers. Children's TV started in 1946 after the Second World War, and in 1950 a programme called Watch with Mother was shown. It was a programme that was narrated the whole way through and the story was told through puppets. Another programme for children called Sesame Street aired in 1969. Sesame Street's aim has always been to teach children real-life lessons, for example, environmental awareness and how to deal with feelings. However, they do focus on cognitive development in regards to numbers and letters. Sesame Street also focused on what would have been known in the 1960s as sensitive topics that other children's programmes may have not spoken about. For example, acceptance of different race, religion and beliefs, or living with HIV. Charlton and Gunter explained that historically, preschool children were noted playing dramatic roles of people whom they were close to, usually family members and other real people in the community. Present-day preschoolers have been reported pretend play themes which reflect more heroic adventure play with fantasy heroes as their favourite role models. Nowadays, children are exposed to much more violence than in the 1960s when Sesame Street aired, due to the influence of video games and music videos. Goswami claimed that as younger children tend to have poorer language skills and poorer quarantining abilities, learning from new media could be speculated to have stronger effects on younger children. This states that children are emotionally and mentally too young to process the meaning of aggressive video games, therefore meaning that they may display the bad behaviour themselves without knowing that it isn't appropriate. In regards to music videos, both lyrics and the videos themselves have become increasingly concerning if being listened to or watched by younger children due to the explicit content. Both lyrics and videos include references to drugs, violence, alcohol, and sexual messages. According to the American Academy of Pediatrics, this can cause alterations to a child's behaviour and attitudes. Ofcom is a telecommunications company that monitors the technology usage in the UK. Below is a list of how often different age children watch TV and how much technology they use.
Oxford Dictionary defines aggression as feelings of anger and antipathy, resulting in a hostile or violent behaviour, readiness to attack or confront, and defines violence as behaviour involving physical force intended to hurt, damage or kill someone or something. However, these are two very broad overviews of what aggression and violence could be. Oxford Dictionary claims that violence is just physical. Researchers claim that there are different types of aggression, not just feeling angry and using violent behaviour. These different types are physical aggression. This could be seen as physically hurting someone, for example, hitting, kicking or punching. Social relational aggression. Social aggression involves behaviours that harm another person but are done behind their back, such as harming their possessions, spreading stories and lies about them. Studies show that social aggression is associated with significant levels of negative consequences for both predators and their victims. Feelings such as loneliness, depression, and social isolation. Relational aggression is seen as more socially acceptable and carries a low risk of punishment. Verbal aggression. This is when a child uses language and communication that is intended to hurt another person. This can be spoken, written, or drawn. Individuals who rely on verbal aggression are viewed as less creditable, have less satisfying relationships, and resort to physical aggression more often. There are different variables that will have an impact on whether a child will copy aggressive behaviour from screen technologies. These are, children with lower general development levels are more likely to copy what they have seen on their screens. This is because they are likely to think what is happening is real life. Therefore, it is acceptable to copy their actions. They feel more involved in the TV, film, video game, etc., and it can be difficult for them to understand what the consequences may be. Initial levels of aggression can have an impact on what they choose to watch. This does not mean that it will definitely have an impact on their behaviour. The different types of screen technologies that are more likely to be copied and have an impact on a child when they are watching is something that involves real-life humans such as wrestling and not animations, as this can relate to them more and it is more realistic. However, Wilson claims that animated and fantasy violence had a stronger effect on aggression more than realistic programming did, which challenges that cartoons are innocent.
Literature has been carried out to try and examine the long-term effects that violent media technologies can have on a young child. Researchers explain that long-term effects with children are now generally believed to be primarily due to long-term observational learning of cognition supporting aggression, which suggests that viewing violent media at a young age is the reason for children displaying aggressive behaviour themselves. However, another reason could be not enough adult intervention and not enough of a positive influence from parents.
Short-term impacts can affect a child in many ways, such as affecting them later in life, the consequences that could affect them when they are younger and as they grow up. For example, if they physically hurt someone when they are a teenager, then they are likely to get themselves in trouble with the police. Experiments show that children will imitate violent behaviour they see on TV, especially if rewarded. One study exposed young children to Power Rangers and then observed their verbal and physical aggression. Compared with a control group, children, and especially boys who had watched the violent programme, committed significantly more intentional acts of aggression, such as hitting, kicking and shoving. If they are not taught what is right and wrong, and do not have the guidance when they are younger, then they are going to have blurred morals, therefore think it is acceptable to be aggressive in any situation. These experiments will test short-term impacts, but cannot track whether these will affect them long-term. Short-term impacts of watching aggressive screen technologies links to Bandura's social learning theory and the Bobo doll experiment. 24 children watched a male and female act aggressively towards the doll. Another 24 watched a male and female act non-aggressively in a quiet and subdued manner for 10 minutes whilst ignoring the Bobo doll. The last 24 children were used as a control group and not exposed to any aggression or any model. All the children were then exposed to mild aggression. The next room contained some aggressive and some non-aggressive toys. This included the Bobo doll. The children that watched the adult act aggressively then copied their actions and acted aggressively towards the doll as well. The findings of this experiment support Bandura's social learning theory that children learn social behaviours such as aggression through the process of observation learning. This shows that watching aggressive behaviour, whether it is in real life or on a screen, does have a short-term impact on a child, although it cannot be told if the children suffered any long-term consequences as a result of this study. Bandura's cognitive theory expanded the early social learning theory and has been used to explain the process by which viewers might learn aggression from media violence. According to Bandura's perspective, novel behaviours are acquired either directly through experience or indirectly through the observation of models. This claims that children will copy behaviours from what they watch on their screens, whether they are watching actively or passively. A passive viewer is one that does not question the message that screen technology is sending and simply accepts the message. They are not engaged with what is happening on the screen. Active viewing. When a child is actively viewing, they are questioning what they see and develop their own interpretation based on their life experience, education, family and cultural influences. If a child is going to watch something with aggressive content, whether it is a TV programme, film or playing a game, then they should be an active viewer and question whether it is acceptable for them to act in the same way the character on the screen is. A child is more likely to be an active viewer if they are watching with another adult, co-viewing, so that they can be questioned whilst watching and they can be told if something is right or wrong. There are also many other factors that can affect a child when they are viewing violent content. These are family. There have been findings that show that being surrounded by people such as your family is linked to aggression. Mesaros claimed that children will not copy what is on their screens unless others have encouraged them to, whether they have meant to or not. This may be showing physical, verbal or social aggression in front of them, and there being no consequences. Environment. This is very similar to family, but this is also linked to school, friends and everyone that is around you. If a child's friends are acting aggressively, whether this is being horrible to particular people or on purpose or is part of a game, then a child is likely to copy what they are doing. This links to Bandura's social learning theory. Culture. In some cultures, aggression is acceptable, such as gang cultures. Some children are exposed to violence and aggression within their culture, for example, if they have parents or siblings that are involved in gang violent cultures. Social economical levels. Screen-based activities such as television, films, video games, etc. are more appealing to low-income families as they lack free time and do not have the money to pay for extracurricular activities. Therefore, they are likely to watch their choice of TV, film, YouTube and video games which could contain violent content. Children in lower socio-economical families show more enjoyment and approval of violence. The children or the parents may not have the education of why it is wrong. However, children within higher classes may not have their parents there to watch them and co-view with them. Therefore, they are left to their own devices and screen technologies are used as babysitters. It is the quality of the interaction which is important. The cultivation theory is about how much screen time a child is getting, whether they're a heavy or light viewer, and how the effects are different. The amount of viewing or exposure is a very important variable in screen technology impact on thought and behaviour. Heavy viewers are less selective and engage in habitual viewing, e.g. they are a passive viewer. TV has a greater impact when it functions, as they are only source of information. Therefore, if a child is having a great amount of screen time and are not having any other interactions, then they are more likely to pick up on what is going on and copy the behaviour. Light viewers are more likely to have other diverse sources of information, e.g. social interaction, reading and extracurricular activities. These take up much more of their time and displace screen time. They have a greater number of behavioural models, e.g. parents if they are co-viewing, and they are less likely to take the screen content seriously. However, this theory does not act on everyone in the same way. Not all heavy viewers are going to take the screen technology seriously and perceive everything as real. This depends on many different factors such as family, environment, socio-economical level and their culture. This is a big factor that can affect how a child behaves when they have watched aggressive content and whether they think it's acceptable or not to copy the character's behaviour. If the screen content is seen as realistic, then they are more likely to take it seriously. Potter said that if a child can see a similarity between the television situation and the people and the situation experienced in real life, then they are likely to feel as if they can relate to them, resulting in the child copying the behaviour.
If a child is perceiving these characters and their situations as real life, then they are more likely to think that it is acceptable for them to copy. For example, if a hero and a villain are fighting and showing physical and verbal aggression and the hero wins, then usually they will be rewarded. This is showing to a child that they will get rewarded in real life for fighting.
Pro-social viewing is a term used to describe children watching a programme or playing a video game that sends out a positive moral message which shows children how to behave appropriately.
Strasburger and Wilson explain that pro-social viewing can promote friendliness, collaboration and acceptance of diversity, and that the author defines pro-social as that which is socially desirable and which in some way benefits other persons or society at large.
My main focus is on supporting children and interventions based around media literacy, parental intervention, rating systems and the UNRC. Parental mediation is any strategy parents use to control, supervise or interpret media content for children. The types of parental mediation include active mediation, restrictive mediation, setting rule or regulation about children's TV viewing and co-viewing. Media literacy and education. Hobbes describes media literacy as the ability to be able to analyse the different forms of media, for example, TV or games. Analysing these forms is the ability to interpret the messages communicated within these mediums. The importance of media literacy was emphasised 27 years ago. It was argued that children need to be taught formally about television. This was much before screen technologies had developed and the emphasis on the importance of teaching formally about television. Children are accessing a variety of different screens younger and younger. Also, back then, it was easier to monitor due to less screens. There are different types of media literacy, one of them being literacy programs, which aim to educate about real-life aggression. Another type of media literacy is content, which is relevant as it pursues to analyse messages sent by various media, especially violent content and behaviour models that are portrayed. It's important to educate children about negative content, including behaviour models such as aggression. The EYFS. The partnership working between practitioners and parents is important in terms of aggression, as practitioners and parents are able to support children with their understanding of their engagement with aggression on screen technologies through communication. Also, a specific area of the EYFS, including understanding the world, provides opportunities to explore technology, including the understanding that technology is used at home and school. It is also used for an educational purpose within settings. Practitioners are required to manage behaviour appropriately, for example, aggressive behaviour, which is a responsibility of practitioners. Key Stage 1. The national curriculum claims that it ensures that pupils become digitally literate, including the use of technology safely and to identify where to go for help in terms of unsuitable content, for example, aggressive content. It also touches on the purpose of computing and what they should be taught. To conclude the EYFS and Key Stage 1, I believe that more media literacy should be included. Co-viewing with parents is the intentional viewing of entertainment with children. Positive co-viewing includes the discussion throughout. It also provides a role model in terms of what kind of programmes are appropriate for children. The lack of discussion throughout co-viewing is the result of passive co-viewing, watching programmes with children just for fun, which could also result in negative media effects such as aggression. Active mediation, talking to children about TV. To avoid the negative impacts of co-viewing and passive co-viewing, perhaps the introduction of active mediation could support children with their engagement with aggression on screen technologies. It also strengthens critical thinking skills about television and protects them from negative media effects such as aggression. Restrictive mediation is another form of support. It is the limitation of the amount of time children spend engaging with screen technologies. Parents use things such as the watershed, which only applies to television, and it starts from 9 p.m, which includes material unsuitable for children, which should not in general be shown before this time or after 5:30. Does parental mediation link with media literacy? Parental mediation does not link with media literacy, as parental mediation focuses on the effect of screen technologies, which doesn't fit with concepts and principles of media literacy. Despite there being no links, a connection between the two fields would strengthen the support for children and their engagement with aggression on screen technologies. A stronger illustration of media literacy throughout the curriculum, the partnership between practitioners and parents mediation will provide more support for children with this issue. Rating systems. There are more issues than benefits with rating systems in terms of being beneficial. For example, content isn't rated in terms of what could be harmful for children. Parents are still required to monitor children's viewing habits as they can access unsuitable content on a variety of different screen technologies. Entertainment Software Rating Board is another control measure, as it allows parents to make decisions about what is deemed suitable for their children. Article 13. There are issues with this right as it runs the risk of encouraging children to access violent, aggressive content. We can apply Article 18 to the role of parents and practitioners within settings to support children with their engagement with aggression on screen technologies, as it is the parents and support services' responsibility to support children